Hi everyone, this is going to be a quick run through of variables. Variables, maybe you know, maybe you don't know, but variables are things to store values in. Familiar with math, of course. X equals 20, for example, right? The X would be the variable there. I'm assuming that you guys are familiar at least a little bit with that concept. So there's going to be different data types, and this is just going to be a real quick kind of crash course, if you will. So one of them, I believe we discussed this in another video. We mentioned it at least, the int. So integer, so int for short. This is a whole number, like 7, for example. But you can't just do it like that. You have to give it a name. So let's just say, int example. How about that? Equals 7. If I could type. There we go. So what do you think that will do for us here? If you're following, I'm assuming that's going to put the value of 7 into this variable, which is of type int. So the name would be int example, and then we can reference it down below here. So we have our hello world, so we're just going to get rid of this for now. And let's dump our int example here, and we'll see what do we get if we make that simple change. Here we go. Where are we? We need to be in C code. There we go. There's our hello world. So it's no longer hello world, but for this time, we'll just keep it that. We're not going to bother changing the file name for this simple explanation, but we need g++ hello world.cpp, and we're going to put that out to, let's say, vars. How about that? There we go, no problems. And so then if we execute, so /vars, this is our executable, what do we see? 7. So as you would expect. So there are many types that we'll be looking at using. So float is another. So float is a floating point number. So we'll say float example, and that could be, something like 3.14, for example. Good old pi. That's one. Another would be bool, which is a Boolean value, and that will represent more or less a true or false statement. Now, in C++ and C, these can be represented by numeric value, and so sometimes you get kind of weird behavior. In other languages, it's just a straight true or false, but well, I guess not all other language, but most other languages. So let's just say true here, and we'll say, oops, wrong keyboard there, keyboard shortcut. So let's spruce this up, and we'll say int example, and give it one of those, and let's just go ahead and make our lives a little easier formatting wise. Copy here, and put here, and we will say float example, and if you guessed, I forgot to paste that there, we'll do bool example, and this, there we go, and we will save and see what we get. Now before we execute, can anybody see any problems? I see a problem already, but we will execute as is after we compile, of course. And let's see here, what do we get? Aha! The trouble. We have to remember that everything will be on one line unless you tell it otherwise, right? That's what this fancy little line here is. And that was just me trying to be too quick about it. and not thinking about the format here. And yeah, okay, let's try again, and that should be much nicer to read. There we go, great. Okay, so printing things out, that's all well and good. But generally, if you're going to print something, you'll want a string in a lot of cases, a string of chars, as mentioned before, but for that we need to include string. Then we can create a string data type. So string, what is string? We'll stick with our convention here. String is a string of whatever you like. String is undefined. Did we make a mistake here? What did we do wrong? That looks correct. We'll see. We'll see what we get. Well, this can be anything you want it to be. It can be a number, and that will treat it as a number when you print it out down below here. And I'm going to copy the line print to help us here. And let's get rid of that. But a string can be anything. So for this example, we will just see what we get here. But we got a complaint, so I want to see what that is when we try to compile. What is it? It was not declared in this scope. What am I doing? Is this a... I think that's what it might be. Let's try again. There we go. Sometimes you forget these things. Okay, so now that we've done that, we will print out and 2, 3, 4. Okay, so this is not actually a number, it is a string representation of a number. So any of these, if you were to do math, you could do that. Well, I guess these two. And this one you could not. So for example, if we did this +1 and recompiled here, what will we get? 8. So you see it actually performed the math. But if you did that here, you would get a different result. It's not going to like that. See that? Because it is a string. It is not a numeric value. So it doesn't quite understand what you're trying to do here in this particular case. So let's get rid of that, and let's change this to hi, my name is Bob. There. Now we will see that this has now changed and printed what we've typed. So in our previous example, we had hello world as a literal string, which is just represented here in the double quotes. But this is another way to handle that, and a much more flexible way for more complex usage, such as what you'll be using in the real world. So this is just a quick crash course, give you a basic idea of what these are. We'll go into a lot more depth, but I just wanted to make a really quick short introduction video for these. So that's it for this video. I'll see you on the next one.